Recording in progress.
Good morning and welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I am your host, the real_G Warner, and it is our 100th episode today. All the champagne bottles in the background. Hopefully you can hear that. I don't know. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the support, whether you're watching on YouTube or on StreamYard, Twitter, listening on Apple Podcasts. Please like, subscribe, do all those sort of things. Trying to build this thing so I can maybe get a co-host even, because I know everybody wants to hear as much as they can about soccer betting across Europe. It's the midweek, kind of a weird, funky situation where we got not a ton of matches going on, but we do have some Premier League makeup matches essentially. We have, I think, a planned, scheduled midweek round for La Liga. Also going to go through the Coppa Italia and a couple French matches which were delayed due to the Coupe de France this weekend. So without further ado, I'm going to start where the money is. We only have one game today in the Premier League, but that is Liverpool, who have a big match ahead of them, considering they dropped points this weekend to Tottenham and are in pretty rough shape right now to win that title, as they are 3 points behind Liverpool. Aston Villa kind of stretched in mid-table right now on 43 points, sitting 11th. I think there's a goal to get to mid-table or to finish in the top half of the league, but I don't know that that is extremely important to them. And there's definitely some on-the-beach risk. So with that said, that's kind of one of my things about Liverpool, that they are catching Aston Villa at a good time. Currently, Liverpool are a 1.25 goal favorite on the road. So here's what I think about Villa. So big, I guess, match for Steven Gerrard, former Liverpool player, but ultimately I can't imagine that's going to affect too much because this is a big boy league and he's got a real job. But from where I sit with this matchup, I think for the most part I'm interested in Liverpool, in fading Liverpool, because they are a road favorite. But it's going to be pretty hard to do it, unfortunately, because when you think about this, Aston Villa, they haven't really had a lot to play for a while now. They've been safe forever. I guess some of the money is coming in on on Aston Villa and making this number fall a little bit from the 1.25 I was looking at last night, or at least same number, but more juice on Villa right now. Liverpool, they're going to have to go all out. So motivation is there. I mean, not that that's ever something you really doubt with Jurgen Klopp's side, or really how well that team has performed in the past few seasons. But having to win by more than a goal on the road is asking a fair amount. I think, possibly on a Tuesday midweek game, that there might be a little bit less of a crowd for Villa, but I imagine that there's some interest in playing spoiler here, where it's kind of a big deal for that crowd. I think they'll show up. They've only got a few matches left, and I think they're going to want to support. So leaning to Aston Villa currently, I'm not sure. Certainly get to see lineups, because it would make sense for them to try to play some new players, or for Gerrard to really kind of try some new things, to tinker, to see what will look like a lineup he wants to use and employ next season. And that's the first matchup in England. We'll next move to, on Wednesday, we have Leeds hosting Chelsea, and things are not good for Leeds right now, unfortunately. They are in big trouble now after getting leapfrogged by Everton out of the bottom three, and Leeds' awful goal differential is what put them into the relegation position right now. The I guess third from bottom, but ultimately doesn't help because there's no playoff in the Premier League. You are going down. So they are tied with Burnley right now on 34 points, but they're 18 goals worse off in goal differential. So that means that they essentially are an extra half of a point behind Burnley, because Burnley have played really tight matches this whole time, while Marcelo Bielsa was doing anything but. Currently, Chelsea, they're not doing anything right at the moment, currently in third position in the league, and there is definitely I think there's a cash difference on where you finish in the league, with Arsenal now 1 point behind them, sitting in fourth. Same amount of matches played, and fortunately for Chelsea, they have 5 points on Tottenham, who are sitting fifth. Though Tottenham is certainly going to come in flying with all the momentum off of that road draw at Anfield. though I think they certainly were hoping to win that match, though that 1 point was significant on both the Premier League title race, but also for them trying to get into Champions League. They're 4 points behind Arsenal with one game head-to-head on the road at Arsenal in North London Derby coming up later in the show. I don't know exactly what that says, but Tottenham have been playing so much better than Chelsea, who had a 2-1 lead and conceded late against Wolves. Actually had a 2-0 lead, 2-0 lead at home and kind of choked that away, though whether it was deserved, I'm not sure. Really silly penalty that Roman Saiz gave up, which I guess Chelsea did deserve, but then another goal, Romelu Lukaku finally get on the score sheet, and maybe he's going to start. I mean, they rested Mason Mount, and it looked great at 2-0, but Chelsea certainly have their eyes on the FA Cup final this weekend, and that might affect kind of who they're playing here, because they've got a 5-point lead in Tottenham. That's a pretty good position to be in, and they're certainly they're going on the road, but they're playing a team that is fighting relegation and know they need at worst a point. I think you see Leeds try to play as defensively as possible. It hasn't really been part of their style of play for a while. Chelsea have all the juice on 3/4 of the goal, and maybe this climbs to 1, and that would make me a little bit more interested in Leeds. But the relegation pressure is a big deal. Certainly the crowd will be big time behind them, but I'm not sure that that's enough for me to really want to get involved there. Next on Wednesday, we have Watford hosting Everton. Currently Watford a half-a-goal underdog. They are relegated. That number feels a little bigger to me than I expected. All the juice currently on Everton on the road. But Everton are now out of the relegation zone, but they're not safe by any means. They're on 35 points, having won their last 2 matches in a row. 1 point ahead of Burnley, 1 point ahead of Leeds, and 13 ahead of already relegated Watford. I don't know what that says about Watford. I imagine that they're probably going to play their youth setup or something that will potentially set them up well for next season, because they're going to be fighting in the Champions League or Championship, definitely not the Champions League, Championship, trying to get into the big league again. But they have a whole 46 match season calendar to do that next season. Everton, on the other hand, they've been playing a lot better. Their crowd has been nuts. On the road, it probably will be crazy again. But I don't know that that's going to be as significant of an impact, though. It's probably a decent chance that a lot of Watford ticket holders are trying to sell their tickets to get some money back to pay for next year's or something like that. So there probably is going to be a much softer crowd for Everton to go into, and that might explain this line being a little bigger than I was expecting. I just don't think that Watford are a team that I want to back, even with Everton having to deal with relegation pressure. Next, we'll go Leicester hosting Norwich. Leicester with really not much to play for the rest of this season, coming off the loss to Everton. They did fight pretty hard, I'll give them that, but the losing in the Europa Conference League semifinal was pretty much the end of the season for them. They might be popping bottles on their own, or just thinking about their beach plans, making their Ibiza ideas, or they're getting some sort of island to rent in Italy or something like that. So Norwich, on the other hand, are already relegated, the worst team in the Premier League. They're 1 point behind Watford and could potentially finish in 17th. That's within striking distance, but does that really matter? I think it's another situation where they're the yo-yo club that goes up wins a championship and then comes down once it gets to the real league in England. But currently Norwich getting a goal and a quarter with all the juice right now. It's a big number for Leicester to leg, considering they don't really care about much at this point. I imagine that after seeing them play a pretty full lineup off the Europa Conference League, that there's a good chance they will I think that you might see some rotation from Leicester, and there's a big difference when you go from a back line of Johnny Evans and Wesley Fofana into Kailar Soyuncu and Daniel Marte. So I guess I'd lean to Norwich as an underdog player, but that's probably not going to make the card. Next, we'll go Wolves hosting Manchester City. Wolves with that huge draw, huge point to come back, and they're sitting 8th place, 3 points ahead of Brighton with one less match played. This will be their makeup match. And they're 5 points behind West Ham, who also has played one match more than them. I guess there's some outside chance that they could finish in that 7th Europa Conference League spot, though I don't know if that's realistic. I mean, it certainly could be. If they get a win here, that's big for them. But I don't know. At home, I'm not sure they're fighting for a win. They probably want a point, and that'll put them 4 points behind West Ham with 2 matches to go, which isn't impossible, but definitely is improbable for them to take that spot. And maybe with I don't know if there's a chance for 8th place to finish in a European spot, but whatever. Man City is where most of the folks will be, and currently 3 points ahead of Liverpool. They really just need to hold serve as they have this whole season. They just really need to hold serve to win the Premier League. And I feel like as a 1 3/4 goal favorite on the road, the market certainly expects that, though. I feel like the lopsided victory this weekend was really more about Newcastle just not really having much and being on a kind of undeserved run of form rather than being too good. But credit City bouncing back from a really tough Champions League loss midweek, though that seems to be something they're used to. I think from the Wolves' perspective and how this match will go, Wolves are going to play really defensively. That's what they've done all season. They've scored 35 goals in 35 matches, yet earned 50 points, which is probably an insane points tally considering how inability they've scored. Currently, they've allowed 34 goals, so less than 1 per match, and that's going to put a lot of stress on Manchester City to cover this spread. I mean, I don't think it's going to be on the players' back, and they're going to really try to be going for it the whole time. But this is probably going to be a tight match, and I think a draw is a reasonable possibility for Wolves, which makes me, of course, interested in that home underdog getting almost 2 goals. I think at +2, it'd be a much nicer number for me to look for, and that's certainly something I'm holding out for, as that would probably be a big tick in the Wolves box for me to back them potentially. But it's definitely not going to be easy. Wolves are going to be under stress this whole time, probably lighter on their legs than Manchester City will be, because they're so deep and they're so used to playing 2 matches a week, where Wolves haven't done it probably in a month or 2 now. I do think that there's going to be a fight in front of the Wolves home crowd, and Wolves have done a fairly good job of staying close to Man City in the past. But I think from where I sit right now, lean to Wolves, but certainly going to wait to see if I can get a +2 on the nightcap on Wednesday. Moving to Thursday, we have a North London derby, and a big one for the Champions League positions. Currently, Arsenal is 4 points ahead of Tottenham, which seems to be a pretty safe lead with only 3 matches to go. But if Tottenham win here on the road at the Emirates, then unfortunately that makes this a real race for that last spot, especially because Tottenham are 6 ahead on goal differential. Does that mean that it is that Tottenham are the host here? My bad. And that's kind of a big deal. Tottenham currently a 1/4 goal favorite at home, with all the juice. So maybe this climbs to half of a goal. And I think that's based on a really good performance at Anfield. And certainly Tottenham are in a position where they look to me like they have one of the most firing of all offenses up front, besides Man City and Liverpool in this league. Probably they do have the 3rd best, I would say, right now. Sonny's been playing so well. Harry Kane's been creating. I do think that Tottenham what's going to happen, they want to sit back and defend just like they did at Liverpool at Anfield on Saturday, and that worked really well for them because they were able to spring a counterattack, eventually found Son kind of unmarked in front of the goal. Arsenal are not the disciplined defense that you would want from a team that goes on the road with a big 4-point gap. But they're going to be on the front foot and trying to score. So I guess it all depends on kind of what the strategy will look like. I think Antonio Conte showed at Inter last season that he's comfortable sitting back even with Scudetto pressure on him and trying to spring counters, and that's going to work well. And I think Arsenal might fall into those traps. I don't really see them as a side that are going to really sit back and try to defend and try to really play a low block that will try to restrict space and make it tough on Tottenham, and so that sets in and it falls pretty well into Tottenham's hands. Maybe this line, and based on the number, will climb to a half of a goal. Certainly all the initiative will need to be taken by Tottenham, but I think that they're going to kind of lure Arsenal into a false sense of security. I think that Arsenal, as a young team, they're prone to many more mistakes than Tottenham, though Tottenham's backline certainly is not prominent, but I think it's been a big reason why Conte has kind of put them into this Champions League race, is that they've been able to find that style that worked for him at Inter. It's worked pretty well under Mourinho last year as well for Tottenham, but didn't get to got to the Conference League, didn't get to where they expected. And so we'll see what happens with this number. But I guess based on where it's trending, I think it'll probably be more likely that Arsenal will climb to a half a goal underdog, and that will be tempting to me, but I think I'll probably skip just based on kind of what I just articulated. Moving now to La Liga, and we got a full slate here. So we'll start with Valencia hosting Betis. Currently, Valencia sitting in 10th. Betis in 5th. Already have clinched the Europa League based on winning Copa del Rey. They're 6 points behind Atleti And with 3 matches to go, that's going to be pretty tough for them to finish in a Champions League place, though that's definitely their aim. It doesn't help that they've gone winless in their last 4. But going on the road to Valencia is a pretty nice thing, considering Valencia put out like a really defensive lineup at Athletic Club last weekend. Maybe they go a little bit more attacking minded with this one, though I'm worried about Diaby in the back line, especially he's playing like a holding midfield type of spot, and seemed like he got a little banged up this past weekend. Valencia currently getting half of a goal is too big for me, based on Betis. Really, the run of form, their offense drying up lately, so I'm not as confident in the Valencia back line, or never am really, and they're going to have to play defensively and allow Betis to take initiative. I think midweek match for kind of a side that doesn't really matter, but then again, there's only a few left this season, so I'm not sure what to or how to handicap the Valencia crowd. But certainly lean to them as a half a goal underdog, though they have all the juice right now. It looks like it's going to fall to a quarter, which probably won't be enough for me, but I guess home dogs are interesting to me forever in this sport. Next, move into a race at the bottom and in mid-table. We have Athletic Club visiting Granada. Currently, Granada a half a goal underdog at home, also with a ton of juice. Athletic Club are fighting for Europe. They're 1 point behind Villarreal for the 7th position, and have their eyes on potentially making the Conference League. 4 points behind their Basque rival Real Sociedad, and with 3 matches to play, I guess that's not out of sight. So Athletic Club should be playing their best guys. They want to sit back and counter, similar to the Antonio Conte style that was just discussed. I'm not sure that that's going to be an option for them against Granada, though Granada with a big win this weekend at Mallorca, leapfrogged Mallorca and got out of the relegation battle and put 6 past Mallorca, which put them in a big trouble with the goal differential issue. They're now 14 goals better than Mallorca and 2 points ahead of them with 3 matches to go. So that's putting them in a pretty good position to potentially stay in the league, which looked really dangerous and unlikely. They went through like 3 or 4 managers, I think, so far this season. But they're in pretty good shape. I think they're not really the side to sit back and defend because their defense isn't that good. But they do have some scoring talent, and I guess with what should be a monster crowd, as they took, I think, 300 on the road to Mallorca this weekend. That's big. Neither of these teams are really used to playing 2 matches in a week, so there might be some tired legs here, and Granada will have that crowd behind them to really push them forward. So I lean to Granada getting a half of a goal because I think a draw, that'll put them where Mallorca can only tie them in in points and have that huge goal differential difference. So that's a big deal. I think Granada are certainly a side I want to back because they have a lot to play for. Athletic Club do as well, and will be going for a win, but they're never really the team that you want to play on the front foot because that's not really their style that they want to play, nor how they're best. So Granada getting a half at home is of interest to me right now. Barcelona then hosting Celta de Vigo. Barca looks like they have, I think they've clinched. Well, so they're 11 points ahead of Betis with only 3 matches to go. So they are clinched. They have made Champions League. Got a really fortunate, or I guess you could call it impressive, late goal from Jordi Alba, but took a lead, conceded an equalizer, and then took another lead right at the death, which was brutal as I backed Betis this weekend, but clinched Barcelona the Champions League position, and that does make me wonder what they're going to play, what they're going to look like this weekend. Certainly, crowd has hated them for a while, but they're in Champions League, and that's a big step for them because they need the money. Whereas Celta de Vigo are sitting 11th right now on 43 points. Don't have much to play for, but I do think that this is a big match for them, and I'll be very curious to see what that lineup looks like, because currently Celta de Vigo getting 1.5 goals on the road, where Barcelona's really struggled to even win matches at home. I'm very interested in Celta. All the juice right now is on the road team and on Celta, but so we'll see if this falls to 1.25. I think definitely one of those you need to wait for lineups, as you do pretty much every match in this sport. But Celta de Vigo, they play on the front foot, they possess the ball. I guess that'll give Barcelona some chances, but I'm not a believer in Barcelona. They've been on such a poor run of form versus expectations that I feel like even winning 3 of the last 4, I feel like they haven't covered in most of those, and some big bad home losses at Camp Nou because no one at that stadium really wants them to perform. Next we'll go Alaves hosting Espanol. This is on Wednesday. Alaves bottom of the table on 28 points, 1 behind Levante, 4 behind Mallorca, and 6 points behind Safety, with only 3 matches to go. They're going to have to play on the front foot, which is really not their style, not who they are. They had a bad loss this weekend, and I don't know. Espanyol, on the other hand, they were trying to get to a point of safety where they got a draw this weekend at home, weren't really that impressive, have been winless in 4, including losing 3 in a row until the draw where they got a late equalizer on a pretty impressive goal, but they're not safe yet. They're trying to get to safety, and that tells me they're going to fight for this one. Probably go on the road, play defensively, and look to counterattack, which is exactly what I want to hear from a team that I don't really trust offensively anyway. Alaves with all the need to score, all that relegation pressure, though. Crowd will be good behind them, but I think it's almost like this is about over for them. I mean, it's not mathematically, but they need to win all these matches. They need to play completely differently than they have all season. They don't really have a lot of attacking talent besides Joselu, who's going to be on the move anyway. So I'm very interested in Espanol getting a quarter right now. All the juice is on the home side as well. So this climbs to a half or a goal, pays a full bet. I think it'd be really hard to keep Espanol off my card, especially now that Raul de Tomas is likely to start this one after coming off the bench due to disciplinary issues for getting a fight with the manager or something like that when he got subbed off at Real Madrid last weekend. But I mean, just another day in La Liga with that type of information. Osasuna then hosting Getafe, currently Osasuna at Pick'em, but with all the juice at home. Osasuna with nothing to play for, sitting in 9th. I guess they just want to finish as high as they can. Getafe with a draw this weekend. They're in 15th on 37 points, 5 points from relegation, so 5 points in the safe direction. They've got, I guess, some worries behind them with Cadiz and Granada potentially passing them, but their eyes are on Mallorca. Getafe right behind me with the awesome Techno Casa, best music genre out there. But at me if you want to discuss that one as well as the soccer we're discussing today. I think Getafe have had such trouble scoring goals. I'm surprised to see them being a pick'em on the road here at Osasuna. Say what you want about Osasuna's struggles, and certainly Ante Budimir finally had his 5 consecutive match goal streak end this weekend, but wouldn't put it past them to score again here. And Getafe, even at a quarter on the road, they just don't have enough offense. And with a little bit of relegation pressure, they're not interesting to me. Sevilla then hosting Mallorca. Currently Sevilla a 1-goal favorite at home to Mallorca. Mallorca in that relegation spot. They're on 32 points. A draw here probably looks like a good result to them because they get to 33, but that'll still keep them in the relegation zone. Only 1 point, I guess at best 1 point behind Granada, who will have already played. And then Levante coming up behind them, 3 points behind them is certainly scary. And I think from where I sit in this one, Cadiz, I guess Cadiz are 3 points ahead of them as I mistakenly say them. But Sevilla looked like they did not care at all about this match this past weekend at Villarreal, which is bizarre because they were facing a team that were trying to challenge for Europe, though I guess Sevilla were 11 points ahead or 12 points ahead of them entering that matchup. Sevilla have drawn. Sevilla drew 2 of the last 2 matches, won the one before that, had the big collapse against Real Madrid before that as well. So I guess results haven't looked so bad for Sevilla, though they're on 65 points, 1 point ahead of Atleti. They didn't really look like they cared to clinch Champions League safety at all, but they're 7 points ahead of Betis right now, their Sevillan rival, with 3 matches to go. So that's pretty safe. I mean, 1 point and they're almost safe, but they're still not. They need a win to get there. Maybe they suddenly jump out of this poor run of form. I mean, the results haven't looked that bad or that poor, but they've been playing so poorly for so long now. Makes me wonder about them for next year. But Mallorca have a ton to play for, getting that full goal of insurance, despite having all the juice right now. Maybe that falls to 3/4. I would expect that should, based on how Sevilla have been playing. But ultimately at +1, I'm interested in Mallorca because they have a lot to play for and should have another big crowd following them on the road for this matchup. Moving to the nightcap on Wednesday, Elche hosting Atletico Madrid. Currently Elche a 3/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Atleti on the road. They were really fortunate to get that win because they have not been playing well. And it was really helpful to them that Real Madrid didn't play any of their best players, and they got a really fortunate penalty kick because a center back who hadn't been used in a while stepped on a foot. You could say that Atleti deserved better because they were certainly pressuring the Real Madrid goal for a lot of the match, but I like to really look at the performance overall, and I don't think Atleti were a goal better than Real Madrid. So when they go on the road to Elche, they're 6 points ahead of Real Betis and 8 ahead of Sociedad for that Champions League position, which they need. They need it badly to pay their wage bill because they've added a lot of good talent and really haven't got a lot from it. 1 point behind Sevilla for third. I don't know if that matters too much, but I think the 6 points ahead of Real Betis for the last Champions League place is the most important thing for them. And they're going to try to go on the road and win at Elche. Now, Elche have been struggling with strikers being injured, took a really bad red card against Cadiz this weekend, and that really put them in a bad situation. Ended up going from a 0-0 match late in the second half to losing 3-0. Brutal, especially for backers like myself, but ultimately that's kind of what you get when you get involved with Elche. They were playing a left back at center back or a full back at center back who was doing fairly well until the red card, but that's kind of what happens. A ridiculous ruling, in my opinion. A guy getting fouled and he swung back to try to get some guy's arm off of him, might or might not have caught a player in the face, and the Cadiz guy made the most of it, and that was the red card. But Elche at home, they are on 39 points, not safe either yet. If Espanol on 40 points are not safe. So they're going to be fighting, trying to play defensively as defensively as possible. I think until this gets to +1, which the juice is certainly making it look like it's going to trend that way. At +1, I'm interested in Elche, but I don't know if I'm playing it less than that. Real Sociedad then hosting Cadiz. Currently, Sociedad giving 3/4 of a goal on Thursday. They have all the juice, so might climb to 1. Cadiz on 35 points, 3 points ahead of the relegation position, but not safe by any means. We'll be looking to try to go on the road and try to frustrate Real Sociedad as much as possible. Sociedad trying to climb into a better European position, 2 points behind Real Betis, but they should basically have that position already based on Real Betis having won the Copa del Rey. So looking behind them, they have Villarreal 3 points behind. And that's something to be worried about with 3 matches to play and 9 points to play for, plus Athletic Club 4 points behind. So they're certainly, they've got some pressure on them. We'll be putting a good lineup out there. I don't know that I trust Real Sociedad to score efficiently because they just haven't done it all season. Crazy to see them on 0 goal differential with so I guess when they lose badly, or when they win close matches, which makes Cadiz at +1 interesting to me if that number gets there. I think it might. Cadiz are going to go on the road and try to defend. I like Sergio Gonzalez, the manager. He's been a big help to them trying to stay in the league, and they see if the season ended today, they would be there. I just don't really believe in Sociedad. Their offense hasn't been very good, and looking at their totals this year, they've got 34 goals in 35 matches. That is not enough, and makes me wonder about Imanol, who they love as their manager, if he's potentially on the hot seat because they haven't gotten the performance they wanted. But I guess probably if they get into Europa League, that's enough for them. Next, we'll go Rayo Vallecano hosting Villarreal. Rayo are safe on 42 points, I believe. They can't get caught. 3 matches left, 10 points ahead of the lowest team in relegation, or the highest team in relegation. So that tells me that Rayo might be playing some scrubs, some young players, giving some players some breaks. I don't know that I believe in Rayo anyway, but at home they've been a much better team, so maybe they choose later in the year or road match to really start resting players. Villarreal on 53 points out of the Champions League. They are 3 points behind Sociedad, so they're fighting for that last European spot. So I imagine they're going to be playing some guys. They rotated quite a bit. Unai Emery did a great job, I think, this season. Why they went so far in Champions League is resting players in La Liga. Problem is that's mean they haven't performed well at all in this competition, which is their home league, and that's most important for qualifying for Europe next year. They got an outside shot, and they're going to be going for it. Currently, Villarreal, a half a goal favorite on the road with all the juice, might climb to 3/4, and that suggests that Rayo are not playing anybody near their best in this one, but we'll see what the lineups look like, and until then, it's hard to make an opinion. Real Madrid then hosting Levante in the nightcap, last one of this midweek jornada. Real Madrid currently a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. Didn't play anybody this weekend besides substitutes coming on late. I don't even know if Benzema even came on the pitch. That would have been nice as a Real Madrid backer, but whatever. Levante, meanwhile, have fought all the way off, finally, off the bottom position in La Liga, but they're 5 points behind safety with only 3 matches to go. They're going to see Granada and Mallorca already playing before them, though unfortunately Mallorca doesn't really matter because they have to get ahead of them, and they're 3 points behind. So they're looking at Granada and Cadiz 5 and 6 points behind, and maybe Getafe 8 points behind, but I don't know how they get there. It's been an uphill battle for a long time. And Levante, they do have an offense that could get there, but unfortunately their defense was so bad for so long this season, and under multiple managers, it just didn't work out. They went too long with missing penalties and not getting victories, and now have to go to Real Madrid, who should be pretty well rested for this one, which is a big deal because Levante playing 2 matches in 4 days or whatever is much worse than Real Madrid doing that. And I'm worried about Levante because they were so good to me last season. I don't know that they're going to be able to hang around because they have to play on the front foot, which isn't different than they've always done. But they're going to have to do that against Real Madrid, and that's going to be really, really scary. They're going to go for a win, which credit them for that because they need it. But I think it's going to only play into Real Madrid's hands, who don't need really any chances because they create goals off of nothing, and the chances that they will get is going to be a really good situation for them. So I think, unfortunately, Levante are going to have to stay away and off my card. Now we'll move to, I guess we'll do the French League because we'll go regular season matches first. If you weren't aware, Nantes beat Nice at a neutral site in Paris to win the Coupe de France this weekend. Parties will probably be out there. Nice, ultimately a very disappointing season. Christophe Galtier brought in, and I guess not a ton was done with the side other than maybe bringing in, is it Andy Delors or was it? Anyway, they brought in some talent, I guess, a good striker from Montpellier, and that tried to build up an offense that hadn't really done a lot in the past. But defense hasn't really been there as much as you'd expect. And in terms of looking at the table, Nice are on 6th place, tied with Strasbourg for that last European position, which does matter. I think Conference League, I mean, it would be below their aspirations, but I think it's something that they're interested in. They're on the same, I guess, one less match played than Strasbourg, and 2 points behind Rennes. So, I mean, there's some European concerns here definitely for Nice. But currently a 1-goal favorite to Saint Etienne, who are on the opposite end. Saint Etienne currently in the relegation playoff position, 3 points ahead of Metz for an automatic relegation, and 3 points behind Lorient for that last spot that wouldn't force them into the relegation playoff. I don't think a relegation playoff is like the worst situation for Saint Etienne. They should probably take care of a Ligue 2 side but that is certainly a pressure point, and they're going to be looking to try to get as many points as possible, which makes me worried that they're going to go on the road to Nice and try to score some goals. Another worrisome part is that Saint Etienne Jack is awesome at scoring own goals, the prettiest goals. If they're offensive, they'd make every highlight reel. Since they're defensive and they're so beautiful, they probably should make the low light reel. And I guess I lean Saint Etienne because they got this weekend off. They're getting a full goal of insurance. Nice have not looked good for a long time now. Checking their recent form, Nice they've won 3 out of the last 4, but definitely not in impressive fashion. I'm looking at Saint Etienne, and I like them as a 1-goal underdog. Nantes, on the other hand, are hosting off of that big Europa League, Coupe de France victory. I'm not sure if that is a Europa League position, but I'm sure, have been partying for a long time, haven't seen a trophy in a while, whereas Rennes have been one of the best teams in Liga this season, currently 3 points behind Monaco and 6 points behind Marseille, who both won this weekend. Rennes are going to be fighting to try to get into a Champions League playoff position. That's their goal. Certainly, they've been struggling because Monaco have been winning every match, and that's hard to stay ahead because they had a stretch of 2 losses in a row. Rennes did. Currently Rennes a 1-goal road favorite. It's a big number. We'll see what Nantes put out there. I imagine quite a bit of rotation, which would explain this line. And even then, even if Nantes play their best, there's probably a lot of tired, weary legs in there, a lot of hangover potential. And Rennes have been playing so well that I don't think I want to get involved with fading them. And we'll go last but not least to the Coppa Italia. So many Copas, so little time. And I think it's in Rome on a neutral site. Current Juve easy for me, man. This is the last rough end of this. But Juve, a 1/4-goal underdog, I guess on a neutral to Inter. Inter got the Scudetto fight on their hands, trying to win the league for a 2nd straight season. Juve with not a lot to play for, so this trophy does mean something. I feel like they played a pretty strong lineup on Saturday, or was it Friday? I think both of them played on Friday, so there wasn't any huge rest advantage for this one on Wednesday. Juve are going to try to play defensively. That's what Allegri has done all season. They're going to try to make this tough on Inter, who are going to push forward and have their fullbacks up the pitch, and they're going to really strangle Juve for 90 minutes. That certainly is a scary thing if you're backing an underdog, but ultimately that does offer some counterattack opportunities to Juve, though they don't really have a lot of those pacey players up front to really do much. Moises Kean missing a clear sitter to win the match on Friday, and then conceding on the other end was brutal. But ultimately that's what you get when you play defensive brand of football like Juve have. Inter, I think they're going to go for this one because they want to win the Scudetto, but they also want to get this going as well. I think from where I sit, I lean to Juve as a 1/4-goal underdog, but unfortunately, I'm not sure that's. I guess I'm interested in it on a neutral pitch where extra time gets you at least a half a goal victory right now based on the current spread. I think from where I sit, Juve are a lean, but that's because they're an underdog, and that's what I like to do, I guess is how to explain it. To lift the trophy, currently Inter are minus 155 favorite, Juve plus 125, which I think has come down a little bit. But ultimately, I would only be interested in backing Juve as an underdog, and we'll see what happens there. So that has been the 100th episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for all your support, whether you're liking, subscribing on Apple Podcasts, listen on Spotify, watching on Twitter, on StreamYard, on YouTube, all those sort of things. I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll stick with me for another 100 episodes. We'll hope that I'm still breathing for those. And it's been a great time for me, and I really appreciate all the support, no matter where it is coming from. It's been great, and I think for the most part, I'd love to keep this going. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Recording stopped.